Can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are today?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Josh. I am a musician, an artist, and a writer, and I came to Solstice about 4 years ago, and that was sort of to aid in my recovery journey. I suffered a psychotic break in about 2021, and that was like during COVID. It was really a very hectic time in my life personally and then in the world. And I feel like it was just a little too much for me. And I kind of, I had some mental health symptoms that started like exacerbating themselves. And it was a really tough time until I decided to come home from up in LA to Orange County. And then I was recovering for about a year. And then, um, things were going okay, and then they got worse, and I had to go to a hospital for a while, and then I ended up coming here right after the hospital.
And so you said you came here in 2021. So when did you actually graduate Solstice? How long has it been since you have completed our program?
Oh yeah, so I came here in 2022, must have
Okay.
been, and it has probably been, I want to say I was here for 6 months, so a little bit of math.
So it's been about 4 years since you completed the
About
program.
4 years, yeah.
And you said you were a musician. What does your life look like now for you that you've completed the program?
Yeah, so life now is much more level, and it's like I used to go through these crazy highs and these crazy lows. I have bipolar disorder as well, and I would go through like manic episodes, and then I get really depressed, and I've gotten to a point now where I can sort of look at my mood, and I can sort of identify when it's like, oh shoot, I need to take my medication, or I need to do some coping skills, something like that. I need to regulate myself, and that sort of kept me from going up and down. It's more level, and then when you get things level, it's not like it's just in the middle. You can work to bring it up, and that's kind of the secret to that.
Talk about like just some aspects of your life, like fun things
Okay.
that
Yeah,
you're doing.
I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Because we'll get more into nitty gritty things
Okay.
about that later.
Yeah.
This is more of like who you are, like who's Josh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as a musician, I really just enjoy throwing myself into the creative process. It's like I love hanging out with friends too, even if we're not accomplishing anything except for enjoying each other's company. I really enjoy that as well. And overall, I'm just like a very passionate person. I enjoy like creative pursuits. I enjoy thinking about things. I enjoy like talking about things with people. Just all sorts of stuff like that.
How did you feel walking in on your first day of Solstice?
Yeah, so walking in my first day, I felt very peaceful. I felt the music was playing in the front, and I said before, I felt like I had this underwater feeling, like things were just like, it felt like I was a fish, and it felt like before I had just been in muddy water, and it felt like somebody just kind of plopped me out and then just threw me in like a clean tank. And I remember just feeling like I could see again, and like that something was just better. The music was peaceful, the place was, the physical building is very nice. And it just felt very welcoming, and felt like people cared. It felt like people were saying they were going to take care of me, and that just felt really good. So I didn't necessarily have any nerves walking in on the first day. It just wasn't really something that hit me. I knew this was something I had to do, and this felt better than the last program that I was in for various reasons. But it felt like this was something that I actually wanted to do, rather than when I was in the hospital, I was like, I don't want to do another program. I just want to go home. And yeah, so I wouldn't say there were any nerves. I was definitely ready at the time to kind of try and get help and begin to repair myself, I guess.
You had no hesitations with coming to Solstice in the beginning?
I don't think so.
No? You were ready to get the help that you needed?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What surprised you most about your time here at Solstice?
Yeah, it's gotta just be that things were pleasant for the first time in like a long time. Like I said, I felt like a fish in clean water for the first time in a while. And that was a really healing process, and that was surprising. I mean, the trees out here are beautiful, the area is beautiful, the building is beautiful, you know, it's like, it just felt like nice. It wasn't like clinical hospital walls anymore. It wasn't like, you know, everything is designed to just be essentially to stop you from hurting yourself, which I've never had a problem with, fortunately. But you know, it's like everything was just so impersonal and so strange and so like medical. So that felt a lot better to be somewhere that was welcoming and somewhere that was accepting and that I could talk to people about. Something that really surprised me was that people started to sort of push back on my ideas. You know, if I felt like something that somebody had said in the past that made me feel worthless, they would sort of be like, hey, that really wasn't nice of that person. Like, that's not true. And that sort of made me sit back and think like, oh, like that felt really good, because I wasn't necessarily the type of person that would open up about my problems back in the day. And sort of doing that and getting outside information is like so important. And that's kind of why I think that group therapy is so important, is because you get stuff that is foreign to you and you're not existing in a vacuum anymore. You know, it's like, I feel like when you exist in a vacuum, you can only think about your ideas so much, and you can only think about your mental health so much from your own perspective. Getting outside perspective is like one of the most valuable things.
What did a typical day look like during your time here at Solstice?
Yeah, so it was it was great. I remember I would walk in the morning and we'd go on a little walk, and there was this one time where I painted a pancake on a rock, so that was kind of cool. Yeah, a typical day would be I'd walk in, I'd make some coffee, we'd go on a walk, and then we'd meditate outside, and then you know, we'd come back and we'd have group, and you know, things were good. Things were just pleasant. A typical day would be kind of long. I don't quite remember how many hours it was in a day, but I would do pretty much the whole session, and it felt like I was going to school again, honestly, and like in a good way where I had structure, because I kind of mentioned before, I felt like I didn't have any structure, and you know, it's being kind of I've always been kind of like a do things my own way kind of person, and I was like, oh, I don't want structure, but I actually do really well with the structure, so that was good.
What was helpful or therapeutic about group sessions?
Yeah, so something that was really helpful about group sessions was that I got this outside information. Again, like I said, when you exist in your own world, I feel like you don't always have the perspective to see things super rationally, because you only have your one perspective, and you only can see your ideas really from one or two angles. When you start to do group therapy, you have a ton of different angles now, from the professionals and then also from people who have also experienced similar things, or maybe even different things, you know, it really depends. But you know, that's one of the most important things, because you start getting new ideas that sort of enter your sphere, and they can grow and blossom, and you can get healthy perspectives and sort of be like, oh wait, I didn't think about it that way. And it seems kind of trivial the way I just put it, but it really is a huge asset to be able to get outside perspective and to work through things with people in a group. You know, it's like I felt like I would just put an idea on the table and we could kind of work on it together. And that was something that I definitely didn't have before.
How did the staff or case managers support you?
Oh yeah, I had the staff and case managers really supported me very well. I had a wonderful experience with the psychiatrist here and the therapists and my case manager. You know, my case manager said, it's like, hey, you can call me anytime. And I remember that I would call him sometimes when I was at home and I was having a lot of trouble. I've kind of said that it was very pleasant in this time of my life, and it was, but I was definitely still having really bad mental health issues. You know, it's like I was having OCD thoughts, you know, almost every moment of every day. And that really interfered with my ability to function, because the OCD would have necessary compulsions. Well, not necessary, but you know, it's like it's part of the illness. But the psychiatrist that I had, Dr. Turner, really helped me because he framed my mental illness like a hero's journey. And the hero's journey is sort of like a circle, where you sort of have like you're at home, and then you have a call to action, you leave home, and then some other stuff happens, and you end up in the abyss. And I definitely spent a long time in the abyss. But the thing is that you can get out of the abyss, and oftentimes you find treasure there, and you sort of begin to heal, and then return home, and then, you know, it's a journey. So you sort of go on other journeys, but it's like that doesn't mean that the abyss is always going to be so bad. And he really helped me by framing it that way, like this is a process and this is a journey. Because of my sort of existential crisis back in 2021, I sort of had a collapse of meaning. I didn't find a lot of meaning in my life, and I sort of just looked at everything as random and kind of pointless. But kind of looking at things like a journey is really what keeps me going, even to this day, is that I sort of think of things like a story, like a progression, like things are happening for reasons, and you can shape your own narrative, and things have purpose, and yeah, you know, it's much healthier to think that way. One thing that I learned was to sort of think of things feeding energy to positivity rather than negativity. You can put your faith, you have to put your faith in something, and if you're not putting it in something good, you're putting it in something bad. And I was definitely placing my faith in something bad. And you know, it's like positivity is like an engine. It can move you forward, and then negativity is kind of like, it just digs you deeper into a hole. And when you start giving energy to positivity, you can actually move forward and like get out of this abyss, get out of this hole. So that was something really helpful that I learned.
What tools, skills, or resources stood out most?
The tools, skills, and resources that stuck out the most to me were initially was these tapping exercises that we do, and the goal of that is sort of to bring you back into your body. And that was really useful to me because I definitely wasn't present in my body. I was consumed in my thoughts. I was like living in my head, and I wasn't living in the world or in my body or around other people. You know, I was just sort of disconnected. So doing stuff like that definitely helped me get back into my body. Meditation. It was really hard to meditate for the longest time because I would have these thoughts, and it was very difficult not to give attention to them. But just trying, putting on a meditation track and just trying really helped. You know, going on the walks was really nice. And then just talking to, I made friends here, you know, and that was something that I hadn't done since like when I was living alone in LA or when I was at school. I hadn't really made any friends. I didn't make any friends for the first like year or two after the psychotic break until I came here. So that was also really valuable to me. Is just being around people who care about you. And I have a lot of support from my family. I don't want to say that it's like I've just been like deprived of it for my entire life, but and I've had good friends in the past too that I still keep in touch with. But I made friends to this day that I still talk to like 4 years after. So that was really good, and that was something that also stuck out to me. But I suppose that wasn't part of the question.
What's one of the biggest lessons you learned during the program?
One of the biggest lessons that I learned during the program was that I'm not my thoughts. It's like, I guess I took everything that I thought very literally, and I thought that I was right about everything, from my delusions to my ideas about the world and how I thought that it affected me negatively. And I wasn't thought testing at all. I wasn't, Dr. Turner said to me, take it to court. He sort of said to take your idea out of your head and put it in front of a jury, put it in front of a judge, and be like, is this true? Does this make sense? Is this what reality is? And most of the time with my mental health issues, the answer would be no. And just still the anxiety that followed me around would convince me that it was true. But I started to be able to say, it's like, yeah, I know this stuff isn't true. It still really bothers me, but I know in the back of my head that this stuff is not true. And that's also where medication started to play a role. Being put on the right medication and being put on it responsibly, not just like literally like, I mean like when I was in the hospital, they were just like pumping me full of medication. I mean like they would put me up on something and then they'd be like, oh, this isn't working. So then they bring me down on something and they put me on something else. And then that wasn't working, so they try like 3 medications at once, and then like it was getting to the point where we didn't know which medication was helping because they put me on like 3 at the same time. And it'd be like, okay, well, one of them is helping a little bit and then the other one is not helping. So the psychiatrist here really began to tinker with my medication and to work on it, and to be like, okay, like what is causing this symptom, what is not causing this symptom, and it's like, let's only do 1 medication at a time so that we know what's causing the changes. And Dr. Turner actually figured out, it's like, hey, I think you have OCD. I think that you're obsessing on things and then that you have a compulsion at the end. And the compulsion would be that I'd be like, oh my God, I'm gonna sell my soul. And then I'd be like, please don't let me sell my soul. And I would do that repeatedly. I'd be like, I'm gonna sell my soul. Please don't let me sell my soul. I'm gonna sell my soul. Please don't let me sell my soul. And that sounded like OCD to him, and that was correct. And I got put on some medication for OCD, and that really helped me. He said that a medication is like a tool. It's like a sword. It's not gonna do everything for you, but it's gonna give you something to work with. And bringing back this like hero's journey analogy, I'm in the abyss, and then somebody just chucks me a sword, and I'm like, oh shoot, I can do something with this, So that was really helpful too. Taking things to court, getting tools, tools with like stuff that you learn in program too. It's all tools that you can utilize, and it's like that was really helpful.
Can you share a moment when you faced a setback and what resilience looked like for you?
Yeah, I would say that this entire thing was kind of a setback. I would say that it was one really large setback with maybe some smaller setbacks in the middle. I can kind of handle smaller setbacks. And I can handle this one too. It really felt like this entire thing just kind of put a halt in my life, but like, I'm not happy I went through it, but it did make me a stronger and more resilient person. It made me have a lot more empathy for people, because I started to realize like, oh shoot, all this stuff that I've been going through, other people are going through as well. You know, it's like, obviously I knew that before, but it just kind of weightened it. Is that even a word? I don't know. It just made it more heavy to me. Like I really understood that to a greater extent what suffering is, and you know, I think that suffering is something that is, you know, present in life. If you look at Buddhism, you know, they say life is suffering, and I think that because we go through suffering and we get through it, I think that just makes humans so beautiful, because we're on this earth despite not really knowing what's going on and what's going to happen, and yet we endure and we continue to live. And that was something that helped me really get through this setback, is that I knew that things were going to get better. I don't know why I thought that. I just kind of knew. It's like, okay, this is just a little detour, or this is like a chapter in this, being a long chapter, like maybe a book, like a chapter in my life that I have to get through, and sort of this idea that things are going to get better, and things were getting better, even if it was slowly. I sort of was able to sort of work through this, because I knew that things would get better.
What strategies or mindsets helped you push through when things felt overwhelming?
Yeah, so pushing through when things were overwhelming was just knowing that I was supported, and knowing that I genuinely believe that things do get better, and that you know, that you can make things better, or you can receive help to make things better. I believe the universe will make things better for you. You know, it's like, but I can't prescribe that to anybody. That's just what I believe. But you know, it's like just this idea that it's a journey, and that, you know, it sounds kind of cheesy, but I really do mean that, and that's one of the most important things in my life, is that I look at life like a journey. And that wasn't really something I used to do. I used to just kind of live passively through life. I just be like, all right, I gotta go to school, I gotta go to work, you know, it's like, I gotta do this. But if you look at life like it's this epic story, you know, and it's like, and you are the main character of your story, and your growth and your resilience and your persistence is important and sacred even. I think that really helped me push forward, and that gave me a lot of meaning, and a lot of it's like this meaning that I was looking for actually came from suffering, and this refusal to stay where I was. It's like I had to keep moving, and that was something even in the hospital that I kind of knew in the back of my head, was that this is gonna pass. Like I didn't necessarily have any suicidal thoughts. Even though I had thought about it in the sense that, you know, I could make the pain go away, I guess. But I never wanted to do that, because I knew that things would get better, and that things could get better. And I didn't want to give up on that. And I knew that if I just kept marching, you know, I'd get through this slog. So that kind of hope gave me resilience. Hope is really important.
Were there any daily habits or small choices that kept you going?
Yeah, as far as daily habits or small choices, I mean, like waking up at the same time and eating good food and exercising. Those all seem like kind of things that are like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. But taking medication at the same time also really, really helped me. Probably like 20-25%. Maybe even like 40, 50. I don't know. Just like doing things consistently, like you don't realize how much your body relies on that. And because we are not all of our thoughts, I guess, your brain is just kind of, especially with mental health issues, your brain is just generating all this noise. You can reduce that by being healthy and by taking care of your body.
How did you manage self-doubt or fear during tough times?
Fear is hard to manage. Self-doubt is kind of easier for me because I'm just kind of a blindly confident person. I believe in myself, and that's kind of because of this whole journey thing that I keep yapping about. It's like I believe in my purpose. I believe in other people's purpose, and I think that inside every person is a world, and inside of every person is like a universe, and that is really sacred and really important. And I can kind of see that importance in myself, so that kind of helps me with self-doubt. Fear, on the other hand, is a totally different thing to me. I was definitely very, very afraid this whole time, and that wasn't something that I realized until a couple years ago, was just how afraid I was. It's like you'll see like quotes about this and stuff. It's like, it's not, bravery is not the absence of fear, it's pushing forward despite the fear. If you're going into like a battle or something, it's like, and you don't have any fear, that doesn't make you brave, it just makes you kind of stupid. But if you have this fear and you march forward anyways, that is bravery. So without fear we can't really be brave. So.
And then who or what was your biggest source of support during your time here?
My biggest source of support was definitely my parents. My dad and my mom would come and see me every day in the hospital. They wouldn't miss a day. Obviously they were supporting me this whole way through. My mom found the program through a neighbor whose son had gone here and said good things. So I really have to thank my parents. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. I actually probably wouldn't have been able to do it. So my parents I'm very grateful.
Mm-hmm. And then did you find success with having family sessions with case managers here?
Yeah, it was really good to have sessions with case managers with my family, because they can kind of understand how best to help me. The advice was a little better than in the hospital. They kind of told my parents certain things, like not to fact check me. They were like, because they thought I had a different disorder, and according to that disorder, you're not really supposed to make people doubt their hallucinations or something like that. I'm not an expert on it because I don't have that experience, but they were telling them to do something according to one disease, and I actually had something else, and that was really bad for me. They were saying, like, don't tell him that his delusions aren't real, that invalidates him. And what I really needed was somebody to just say, hey dude, that is not real. When I'm like hearing voices, when I'm, and I had this time that like Satan talked to me, and I was like just terrified. I had these it wasn't real, but I had these angels that were like actually demons, and then they would be laughing at me. It's like I was hallucinating all this stuff, and I just needed somebody to say, like, it's not real, dude. So that was helpful.
So what changes did you start noticing in yourself during your time at Solstice?
Yeah, the changes were all positive. I started to realize that I was getting ground on these ideas that I was having in these intrusive thoughts. I was really starting to make progress in a direction that was good. And knock on wood, I haven't really regressed since then. The first time that I came out of the hospital, I definitely regressed and it got worse. But the change that I've noticed since coming to Solstice and when I was in Solstice is that I was actually moving forward in a positive direction.
How did this experience shape your mindset or goals?
Yeah, coming to Solstice really changed my goals and my experience by making me realize that you take one step at a time, and that that sounds like a quote that's like on an elementary school wall, but it really is true. It's like it's not going to all happen in a day, and you're not just gonna suddenly like magically arrive where you want to arrive in a single day. But it's like I really look at every single day like it has purpose now. I look at life like it matters, and that I sort of see. I mean, like you have to value the present moment, but also seeing the joy in the places that you want to be as well, really keeps me going forward, and looking at every day like it is sacred and progress. Even if you go backwards, you still, it's like a stock thing. It's like it goes up and down, and hopefully the general direction is up. It's like everything is progress and everything is moving forward. So that's like that perspective was really something that helped me just start to believe that things are getting better and that I'm healing. It's like I wasn't healing really before I came here, and I don't say that lightly. I had lots of different experiences with lots of different providers, and I was sort of like, it's like the wound was healing, but it was still like infected or something. Like I wasn't healing properly. I wasn't healing fully, and like just my testimony of where I am now. Again, I wouldn't have been able to do this with my parents, and I also wouldn't have been able to do it without this company, like or this group. It's like I wouldn't have been able to do it. Oh, I feel so cheesy. I wouldn't have been able to do it without Solstice, but that's genuinely a fact. That's true. I probably would be living under a bridge talking to myself, and then I'd probably get like stabbed or something. So like that's like, so it's good.
Okay. What are you most proud of today?
I'm proud of my mindset. I'm proud that I don't give in to these like just dark, nihilistic, pessimistic ideas anymore. It's like I used to be like the type of person where I'd be like, oh, if I just assume the worst, then nothing can ever disappoint me. But then if you're always assuming the worst, it's like you spend your entire life just like down in a low, in a ditch, so like you have to hope. And the thing about hope is that, it's like maybe you open the door and there's nothing there. But the thing is that keeping that hope, it doesn't really matter if nothing's there, because you're tethering onto something, and it's like it doesn't even have to be there because you have that thing to pull yourself out. So starting to have hope was the biggest change, I think. And yeah, I don't know.
And then looking back, what surprised you most about your strength or ability to adapt?
I'm surprised that I don't really like to pat myself on the back, but it's like after everything that I've been through, I'm surprised that I kept going and that I didn't just give up. I don't really know why I didn't do that. I just didn't really understand that was an option. I was like, I have to keep going. That's just what you do. And that kind of surprises me because it's very easy to give into despair, and that's something that you can't do. You can feel down about something and you can feel your emotions about something, but you can't just think that it's all helpless. You can't think that it's impossible. It's just something you're not allowed to do, in my opinion.
So what has life been like since completing the program here at Solstice?
Yeah, life is much better. It took some time. definitely took some time, but I'm getting to the point where I'm a little scared to say that I feel better because I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but I do feel better. And um, yeah, after I got out of the program, it's like I continued to get support through through Solstice, um, and that support is really important. I really do consider this company to be family. I really do um, think that Solstice is different than other programs. I actually feel like people are keeping tabs on me. People are like, as an alumni, people are still supporting me. I still come here for therapy, and I still, um, you know, uh, like Narges, who was my past therapist before she moved to Texas, still keeps tabs on me. It's like she's still is happy to hear that I'm doing well. Things like that. And I mean, like the guys at the hospital, like they completely forgot about me. There's no way they know who I am. There's like it's like literally like 0% that they even care like now. But Solstice still cares, and that's cool.
How do you stay connected to recovery and personal growth today?
Yeah, like I stay connected to recovery and personal growth because I look at recovery like it is this journey. It is something that you do every day. And even if you have setbacks, it's all part of the story. It's like you can't really have a story without conflict. Otherwise, it's just kind of like wishful thinking. And there's like, who would want to watch a movie where it's like, oh, I'm a guy, and then I just got $1 million, and then somebody just gave me $1 billion, and the end. It's just not really a story. So, like a real story is like setbacks and hardship and suffering, and that's kind of what life is. But like again, like having hope is how you move forward, and thinking about every day as being important. It's all the journey. Like really, like it's a journey. It's like it's as if you're going through a hero's journey. You're walking up a hill. You're going on an adventure. Something like that. Like it really is.
And how has community or alumni support played a role?
Community and alumni support is like the biggest thing. I still hang out with my friends from this program. I mean, like they're like, most of my friends have moved away from the area, so they're really like the ones that I hang out with. Um, so, and that's really great. Like I've made like some of my best friends there, and I also wouldn't have been able to do it without them too. Friends are super important. I mean, like, yeah.
And then what goals or plans are you excited about now?
Goals and plans. I mean, like now it's just world domination from here. It's like after I've gone through my story, it's like here's the $1 million coming. So like I'm a musician and I want to get my music out there. I want to play music, and there's a G major chord. If you play music, you're like, oh, he's playing a G major. That's what gang signs should be. They should be like guitar chords. What's a C major? But yeah, it's like I feel like after the program and after some time after recovering, with the continued support, I can really start to just like pursue the positive aspects of my life. It's like I've gone through well, I won't say that like I've done. I've reached the end game at 27. That'd be kind of, it's like obviously that's not true, but speaking from the perspective of having gone through, a psychotic break and all these things, it's like now I feel like I can really start to get my life together and start to sort of enjoy the fruit of what's been grown. It's like I have a great job now teaching music and a school for kids, and I'm getting a band together, and we're going to start gigging, which is something that I've been meaning to do like my entire life, and that's finally something that we're going to be doing. I'm recording music and releasing it. and it's like, music is also something that was really important to my journey. Like having something that I can pour myself into. But yeah, it's like I feel like I can take over the world now. So you will be subservient to me in a bit.
What's one lesson you learned the hard way but are grateful for learning?
Yeah, one lesson that I learned the hard way, but that I'm like very grateful to have learned is that you can fly too close to the sun. You can definitely, you can. I like to think of it as like the Icarus story. I have bipolar disorder as well, and the thing about manic highs obviously is that you crash afterwards. And I feel like it's kind of about riding that wave. And if you fly too close to the sun with your wings of wax, they're gonna melt and then you're gonna plummet. So it's like, I feel like my most important lesson was just learning that I can't just do whatever I want all the time. It's like I can't just like indulge in like, it's like you can fly too close to the sun, and you have to be wary of just doing too much. You have to take care of yourself, and you can only do so much in a day. And it's like, and that's okay. It's like also this life being a journey thing. It's like, again, I look at like every day like it's moving forward, even if I'm technically like having a bad day. It's like it's one day closer to something at the end of the line, and it doesn't really even matter if I reach that. It's like I just put like a shiny little thing. I have this image in my head of just like a shiny thing at the end of my life, and I'm just like going towards that, and it doesn't really even matter what it is. It doesn't matter if I don't reach it. It's just like the fact that I'm going. It's like it's like the treasure is the friends we make along the way. It's like, and that's like super corny, but like that is true. Like, it's like you gotta keep moving forward, and like hope and things like that is what does that. And yeah, and I don't, it's like I have this dream of becoming like a successful musician, and it doesn't really even matter to me if that happens or not. Like, my goal is just to be chasing that, like to, it's like I wouldn't live in regret if I didn't achieve that. That's not even important, but I would regret not trying. If I didn't try, I would regret that. So that's something that I learned and that I'm grateful for.
What would you say to someone who's currently struggling with mental health?
Well, the first thing that I would say to somebody who's struggling with mental health is that your thoughts are not 100% correct every single time. It's like you have to separate your thoughts and your emotions, because for me, at least in mental health, is that I will have an intrusive thought, and then that will cause an emotion. And the combination of those two causes like a lot of dread and a lot of panic. If you can kind of just look at your thoughts and take them apart, it definitely helps to have support with that. And something that you also need to know is that there are resources out there, and there are people out there who understand. It's like, so I like to look at my thoughts, and I like to take them apart. It's like take them to court. It's like just really like be like, is that true? Is that actually true? And if you can logically wrap your head around like, okay, there's maybe like a 1% chance that isn't true, or that it is true, but like that's being generous. That's being really generous. And then like the 99% that it is not true, you're just completely ignoring that. Like that's how you know that like it's a mental health issue. But if you can look at the logical aspect of it and be like, okay, this is not true, then you have to handle the emotion. And that the emotion is what keeps you thinking that it's like, this is 100% true. I'm a terrible person, or the walls are going to eat me, or like a star is going to come down and crash on my house. It's like it's the emotion that keeps you tethered to these things. And the way that you deal with that, I think, is that you feel it, and that you sit with it, and that or you distract yourself, or you move on. It's like something that really helped me for the longest time was that whenever I would have these emotions, I would just sit down and play like 40 minutes of a video game or something, or I'd go on a walk, or like I'd work on some music. It's like something just to reroute your brain. Because like something with OCD is that you have, which I have, is that you have these thought loops that you can get stuck into, where you think that you're thinking about something, but you're actually not making any progress. Also, something that I learned is that you can really only make so much progress on thinking about your mental health at a time. It's like if you're sitting there stewing in your head for like 3 hours, you're not thinking objectively anymore. Like you think you are, but it's like your brain is so exhausted that you're not actually making any progress. Like you need to be trying to put it down. And that's, it's like, there's a meme where it's like a person who thinks about, or a person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about but thoughts. That's an Alan Watts quote. It's actually a really good quote. But it's true. It's like, if you're only thinking about your thoughts, it's like you're not thinking about reality anymore. You're just thinking about ideas and thoughts, and then your emotions are making you grab onto that. So, it's like just learning to set things aside, put it down. There's a story, a Buddhist story about a monk. There's 2 monks walking. I'll go over this really quick. 2 monks are walking. They meet a woman at a river. The woman at the river is like, I need to get to my wedding, but there's a river in the way. So the older monk picks up the woman, puts her on his shoulders, and they walk across the river. And then as he's about to reach the end, he kind of slips, and the woman's dress gets put in the water. And then the woman is like, oh my goodness, you destroyed my dress, you stupid monk. And she's getting all mad at him. And then the younger monk is like infuriated by this. He's like, how dare you insult this monk who was just trying to help you. So they're walking for like 3 days. They're going back to their monastery or whatever. And this whole time, the younger monk is just stewing about that woman. He's like, just like so angry. And then the other monk asks him, it's like, you notice this? He's like, what's wrong? And he's like, how could you let that woman disrespect you? How could you let that woman treat you that way? And he says, like, have you been thinking about this the whole time? I put that woman down 3 days ago, and you've been carrying her this whole time. And it's like that's got a lot of wisdom to me. And it's kind of like, you need to learn to put the woman down. And what it means by carrying her is that he's been harboring these feelings this entire time, and the monk just put them down. The older monk just put them down. He's been walking in peace for 3 days, and the other guy's been walking in agony for 3 days, thinking about all this stuff. So it's like you have to learn to just put the woman down and just walk in peace. And easier said than done, but that's kind of what you got to do.
What's one practical step someone could take today to start their healing journey?
One practical step that you can take to start your healing journey is to journal. Writing stuff down really, really helps. Like, if you're just keeping everything in your head, like, could you do like an entire math equation in your head? Just like, it's like you're gonna get lost over time. You're gonna forget things and you're gonna mix things up. It's the same way with mental health. You can't just like walk around in your room just like thinking about it all the time. You gotta write it down. You gotta write it down, see what you're thinking, take a little break from it, look at it again, and it's like, get it all out, think about it, it's like you gotta, there's a 21 Pilots song, it's like you have to think, and it's like, like actually think about it, dude, like not just letting the narrative run. You have to think about it. You have to be like, okay, like, why am I thinking these things? And the reason is, it's like, oh, I may be mentally ill. It's like I would urge you to seek help and support with that. But the first reasonable step I think you can take is just to write it down, just to get it out and to talk about it to people. Talking is like the hugest thing, it's like, I don't think human beings are designed just to exist in solitude and to just keep everything to themselves. It's not weakness to speak what's going on inside your world. it needs to come out. You know, it's like if you just bottle it up and you just like keep it there, it's gonna get so hot and so condensed it's gonna explode, or it's just gonna cause you all this suffering in the meantime. It's like you have to let it out. You have to let off some steam. So journaling can do that. Talking to people that you trust can do that. Talking to a therapist can do that. You know, so.
What's one piece of advice you'd give someone considering treatment?
One piece of advice that I would give to someone considering treatment would be to do it in some form or another. Like, I understand that, like, finances are difficult, especially now, but you have to do something. You can't just suffer on your own. You have to do something about it. That's a priority. You know, because it's like, what is life if you're just suffering through it? You know, it's like, why, like, if you turn around and you look at your life, like when you're like 80 years old or something, and you just look like, dang, I was just in pain that whole time. Like, why didn't I try to fix that? You know, it's like, I think that's a shame. I think it's a shame to spend any moment in pain that is unnecessary. You know, it's like we have to go through pain because it's part of life, but it's like, if you're just hitting yourself in the head with a hammer, like, you need to stop doing that because it's not necessary. You know, it's like, if somebody is hitting you with a hammer, that's one thing. But if you're just hitting yourself there, you're just sitting there and hitting yourself with a hammer, it's like, it's unnecessary and it's causing you suffering. And it's like, it's not something to be ashamed of, to seek help and to try and stop. To just try and get your pain in life just to be as little as possible. So I would urge people to seek treatment.
And how has your definition of resilience changed over time?
My definition of resilience has changed over time. Talking to some friends that I've met in the program who are deeper than me in certain aspects. Everybody has their own journey and everybody has their own problems. And I think resilience is moving forward when you don't want to. And I think that you can move forward just by sticking around, just by being here. You know, it's like you're moving through time either way. You know, it's like you can't stop doing that. If you can, let me know, because I'd like to be a 12-year-old again and play with some Legos. But you know, it's like you just being present and just moving through life is enough. And it's very admirable to do that. So.
What was one of the biggest lessons you learned in PHP?
One of the biggest lessons that I learned in PHP was that there's nothing wrong with me, in the sense that, like, nobody is beneath anybody else. Nobody is, you know, worth any less than anybody else. And these thoughts and these internalized beliefs that we have can kind of be planted in us from other people or from, like, conditioning and media and stuff like that. I would say that, like, the most important thing was that one of my friends actually checked me on that in a group session. She said, like, I'm really sorry that happened to you. That wasn't your fault. And that was somebody else being nasty to you. And that really changed my perspective on internalized things. You know, it's like racism, sexism, you know, like whatever. Homophobia, you know, not that I experienced all of that, but, you know, like with racism for me, it's like, that really helped me understand that there isn't anything wrong with me, and that it's something external to me that planted that idea, and that idea is not based in reality. You know, it's like, you can argue for stupid things, and you can, if you're good at it, you can make your arguments seem reasonable, but things like that are not reasonable. And and there actually is nothing wrong with you in those regards to things like that, and things regarding identity and stuff like that. So that was something really important that I learned, and that's something that I've made a lot of progress on. I definitely used to have a lot of issues with internalized racism and like experienced racism, things like that. Um, I'd say that I'm at a point now where I just don't care. I genuinely just think that like that there's nothing wrong with me, and if somebody says something nasty to me, of course you're gonna feel gross after that. Of course you're gonna feel that, but that's because somebody is just spewing their venom on you. You know, it's like it's not that there's anything wrong with you. Feel gross and disturbed by it, but don't internalize it. You know, because there is nothing wrong with you.
What does integrative care mean to you?
Integrative care means to me support and just getting somebody to give you outside information. You know, it's like or like just a professional can help you think about things in a way that you didn't think before. Like a good therapist, which they have here, thankfully. Oh my God. Will poke holes in your ideas. Will be like, that does not make sense, my friend. Or that's not your fault. Or, you know, it's like, why don't you think about that from a different angle? You know, something that my therapist, Lena, really helped me with. And this really alleviated like a lot of suffering on something that I was dealing with, is that she said, you know, it's like, ask that feeling a question. You know, it's like, why do you feel this way? What do you want? You know, it's like, and I just kind of sat there and I was like, what is this feeling? And I thought that I was just this terrible person, but actually the feeling was something else. It was like feeling that I needed to be something that was different than I am. And it was like shame. Like it wasn't like it wasn't shame that I felt that I was a horrible person. It was shame that made me think I had to be something that I wasn't. So integrative care to me is like support, like getting support from people that are educated in this stuff and people that can help you in this stuff is huge, because you think you can do it all on your own, but it's not wise to do that. It's good to get help.
How did specific therapies or treatments support your journey?
Oh, specific treatments that really helped me, therapy and otherwise, was MERT, magnetic resonance therapy. That's like when they put a thing on your head and they zap you with magnets. I can still feel that. That helped a lot, actually. I was not expecting it to help as much as it did. I got my sleep schedule on track. I used to sleep like 13 hours, 14 hours a day after my psychotic break, because my brain just needed to recover. After that, I didn't need to do that. My intrusive thoughts were less. I had more clarity, and it just really helped. I was very surprised by it. As far as like treatment goes, you know, therapy is probably the most important thing. I was seeing some therapists in the past and they were helpful, but I would encourage people that don't find therapy helpful to try other therapists. You know, it's like they have great ones here, but just like as a general piece of advice, it's like the first therapist that you meet with might not be the right fit. You know, it's like, and a good therapist is really valuable. Like, if you haven't had a good therapist that really fits with you before, you don't really know like how valuable it is. So I would encourage people to, you know, it's like, try a session with one person, try a session with another person. You know, it might take like 4 or 5 people, but like by the time that you find a good one and you stick with them for a while, it's really good. And also, you don't have to stick with the same therapist for like your entire life. You know, it's like you learn things from certain people and then you move on to another person and you learn more things. So it's like,
Would you recommend Solstice to other people, and why?
yes, I would recommend Solstice to other people, and the reason is that they care and that they're competent. That's like the two biggest things to me. Um, the care is like, this company took care of me, and they cared about me, and they helped me, and they would actually keep track of me. My past experiences with hospitals would be that I would literally explain my symptoms so perfectly because I thought that they were going to take that information, they were going to give it to the doctor, and they would help me with it. They didn't even do that when I was in the hospital. I don't even know what they did with those notes. They just probably threw them away. But so I'd have a psychiatrist with this other organization where he would just not be on the same page of where I was. He didn't care. He'd spend 20 seconds with me, say, "How you doing?" I'd say, "I'm not doing so well." He's like, "Why is that?" And I'd be like, "I'm having delusions and stuff like that." He'd be like, "Okay, here's your prescription. Bye." Like that would literally be the whole thing. He'd spend like about 20 seconds with me. And that would be like maybe like every 3 days, every week, something like that. So it was not something they didn't care. I was just like one of like 200 patients to them. And they're just like, okay, like this guy has this disease, which I didn't have, and we're just gonna treat him just like the book says. And it wasn't adaptable. It wasn't like, they didn't look at me like as a person who has his own life experience and who has his own story. They just kind of looked at me like a case, like a disease that needs to be treated. And they didn't really look at me like a complex individual. It's like we're all complex individuals, and Solstice really did that, and they care. And then the next thing that I was talking about was that they're competent. They actually know what they're doing. And that's that's good, man. Like, I've had psychiatrists in the past who were kind of limited about what they could do through the company policy. So they wouldn't even prescribe me like medication on the right dosage. It would be very, very minuscule amounts of medication and then only one medication. And I'm on multiple now. And there's nothing wrong with being on multiple medications. It's like, obviously I'm not a psychiatrist, but you can talk to your psychiatrist about whatever, it's like, but, it's like they were kind of limited in what they could do. My previous psychiatrists, and they just weren't able to help me. I'm not saying they were bad doctors. I'm just saying that the limitations that they had due to like their company policy was not good, and it didn't really help. And they actually put me on a bad medication that really messed me up, and they knew that it would mess me up because I had an adverse reaction to it in the past, and they thought, well, you've probably gotten better from that. And then I got back on it, and then it just like destroyed my life again. So that wasn't good.
So finish the sentence. Recovery is
a journey, and that sounds kind of cheesy, but I really do mean that. It's progress, and every day is a step forward. And I think the way that I do it is I put hope at the end, and I sort of tether myself to that, and I'm making progress towards what I hope for and what I hope for things to be. And it doesn't even matter if I get there or not. It really doesn't. Like, I have a dream of being like a successful musician. Doesn't even matter if that happens or not. But if I don't try, I'd be disappointed in myself. If I look back and I said, wow, I didn't even try, I'd be disappointed. I wouldn't look back and say, oh, that never happened. That doesn't matter to me. It's that you're moving forward in life. Life is a journey, and mental health is also a journey. And looking at things like they have meaning and like it is a story, and that things are important, is what keeps you moving forward. Positivity is an engine, and negativity is a shovel. If you just feed negativity, you're just digging yourself deeper into your ditch. But if you're feeding positivity, it's like you're moving forward, and you have to put your faith in one of them, whether you believe something is for the best or whether you believe something is for the worst. It has to be one of them, and you might as well choose positivity because it moves you forward, and things will get better.
What is one word that describes your life today?
One word that describes my life today is awesome. Awesome. I'm not saying that at 27 I've just cracked the code to life and I figured everything out. Now I'm enlightened and I've reached the end of the video game and now I can just walk around with my max level stuff and own noobs. I'm not saying that, but I've gone through the work and I've put in a lot of effort through Solstice and afterwards through being an alumni to sort of get to a point where I have recovered from like my psychotic break and the things that I've experienced. And I feel like now my life can just begin. I think that's like a Disney song. I can't believe I just quoted that. But it's like I have a job teaching music to kids now, and I'm a musician, so I'm pursuing my career, and it's like it's all great stuff. So I'd say it's awesome. It's like I'm not quite where I want to be yet, but I'm on that track, and that's exhilarating. So, yeah.
The biggest lesson you learned?
The biggest lesson that I've learned in mental health and through all these things that I've been through is that you have to have hope. And hope is like a door, and there might be nothing behind it. It's like the things that you hope for might not happen, but it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because you have that hope, and that hope is it's like a bridge. It's like that invisible bridge that you can walk across, and it's like if you don't hope, you're not going to be able to walk that bridge. But if you do hope, that's how it comes to be, and that's what keeps you moving forward. And when you're moving forward, even if you have setbacks, even if you go like a month and it's just you're not making progress, it is progress because you're moving through time and you're sticking around and you're getting through it. So I would say that every day is progress, and every day is moving forward on this journey that is life and that is recovery. And just sticking around and hoping and feeding things that are positive is so important. So if you're not feeding your positivity and you're feeding negativity, you're just weighing yourself down. It's like you're digging yourself deeper into a ditch with negativity, and with positivity you're moving forward. So you have to move forward, and that isn't linear. That isn't something that is just always up, but the general progression is up. It's like you have ups and downs, but the general direction is up.
And what's something you're proud of?
Something that I'm proud of is myself. And that feels kind of weird to say because I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of myself. But it's like if I looked at myself from the outside, I'd be like, wow, like this guy actually really stuck in there, and he was really tough about it. It's like I was like hallucinating, and I was like having all these like crazy dark narratives enter my mind. I had my entire belief system just destroyed, and I was just floating in this like abyss. And through the program and through my recovery journey, it's like I'm proud that I'm still here, honestly. Like it was, I won't say it's worse than anybody else's experiences in life, but it was, for me, it was like as close to as much as I could handle, but I stuck in there and I made it out. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like doing better, so like I am proud of myself.
And lastly, a message to someone who feels stuck right now.
Okay, can I say the thing about hope again? Okay. Like the positivity or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. Something that I would say to somebody who feels stuck right now is that you have to believe in positivity. You have to be positive. You cannot give in to despair. You know, you can feel down about things. You can feel sad. You can feel like, oh, the world is ending, you know, but you can't despair. You can't think that everything is pointless. You can't think that you're doomed. You can't think about those things. You have to put energy into something positive, even if it's not true. You know, it's like, even if you're like, I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow, you know, it's like, that might not be true. It's probably not true. But that hope will help you move forward. You know, it's like, maybe that was a bad example, but, you know, it's like positivity is a motor and negativity just digs you deeper into your ditch. You know, it's like, so positivity has a function and negativity drags you down. So you have to give energy to something positive, even if you don't fully believe it. You have to, if you're stuck, you have to become positive. You have to adopt that mindset. That's how you get out of it. It's like, something that I say is like, it's purely functional. Like, I actually believe in positivity. You know, it's like, there's a next step to it. But like, if you don't believe in positivity, just do it because it's helpful. Like, I promise it'll help. And then you can get to the point where you're like, oh yeah, I actually believe this stuff. But, you know, so.